everyone, it's Jill here. Welcome to my sunroom. Today I'm going to be working on a story planning video and I am using the Willows kit from Cocoa Daisy. This is the kit that came out for March, and as you can see, it is very, light, bright, got lots of pastels, yellow, greens, blues going on here. So definitely evoking the vibe of a fresh new spring. On my table, I have all of the products that I'm going to work with from the scrapbooking kit. It's a scrapbook kit with the card add-ons. And I also have a few products that I pulled over from other subscriptions. So I also subscribe to the planner kit and I can't remember if it's a journaling or the stationery kit, but I've got a few pieces I've pulled from there as well. So here we've got, I'll come back, do the cards last. So we've got all of the papers. There's a vellum and a transparency. There's the chipboards, rub-ons. This kit came with these two tags, which are really fun. And let's see what else. The die cut pack, puffy stickers, and enamel dots. This kit came with a little green polka dot washi. Let's see. There we go, a green polka dot washi. So, that might find a home somewhere. See, can you see that? Nope. Green polka dot washi. And then it also came with two sets of alphas in this kit. This one came with a smaller puffy alpha and then a larger die cut alpha set. And then this is one that definitely is from a different kit. I want to say it's from the planner kit, but this is a pocket, right? It's got sticky on the back and it's a pocket. And I just thought this would be perfect for an interactive element in my scrapbook. And I grabbed a tag that I thought kind of went with or complemented. So I'm going to find a story home for this kind of set here. And then we come to the cards. So there are the 4x6 cards here. And then for the 3x4 cards, here's how I like to use these. And if you haven't used Cocoa Daisy products before, the cards are all double-sided. And so for me, it's a lot of visual material. And so I like to look through all of the cards ahead of time and really identify for myself, which side do I see myself most likely using in my scrapbook. So these cards here, I like both sides, right? So it just so happens one side of all of these cards has, words or text of some kind. And then the back are all patterns. So I could easily use either side of these. I like the sentiment on the front and I also like the patterns on the back. Then for these cards here, I really like the side that is facing up. So I've already kind of cut down on the decision making for myself by saying this is the side that I'm going to use. So here's an example. These two little creatures I think are really cute. I could easily see myself using these as like a filler in one of my layouts. On the back side, they have these more kind of whimsical design, which is the illustration and artwork for this month's kit. I love the whimsical and kind of fun nature of this artwork, but I don't love it in my scrapbooks. So I have this in my planner. I think it's super fun. It makes me really happy on a daily basis, but this isn't really my aesthetic for my scrapbook. So I'm not going to use this style of artwork in my photo album, but I will use these, right? So that's how I made my decisions. And then I broke these into three. This would be four. These into three categories. So this one here, this would be pattern or filler card kind of material. These are all text, words, quotes, right? And then this, excuse me, and then this pile here is basically would be for journaling or home for another photo, right? You could easily put a small square photo on there, or you could use it for journaling. So that's what this pile represents here. Okay, so those are the cards. There. Now, Next, I also brought over some other materials that I have in my stash. I always like to see from a color perspective, color palette perspective, what else do I have that might go with the kit? And again, just give me an opportunity to dip into my stash and to make use of those materials. So I grabbed a couple of labels that definitely go with that kind of peachy tone. I have another kind of peachy chipboard circle. I've also got a yellow one. These came together. These were Allie Edwards. I think it was a travel kit, but I could be mistaken. So those were nested circles. I also found this yellow heart. This is one of my favorites. I'm for sure I'm going to find a home for this. This was a canvas piece, also from Allie Edwards. This was from the XO story kit that came out. I think it was 2023, but it's a canvas piece. It says all of you, and that peach tone works perfectly with the color palette here. So I've got that. And I pulled over a washi that's also similar tone, so that might have find a home into one of my stories. And then two other things that I brought over. One is this other alpha set. This was sitting off to the side and of my desk. I was using it for another story, and I thought it might work. Obviously, it's a brighter, more vibrant color. Actually, let me take it out, see if that helps with the glare. But it still kind of goes. So this might have a home somewhere. We'll see. I'll keep it off to the side of my desk and make that decision along the way. And then lastly, I was purchasing some things from scrapbook.com, and I saw this sequins mix. It is from, what is it from? Catherine Pooler Designs, and it's the Key Largo. And it's just a nice springy, yellow and green sequins mix. And I thought that could really work nicely, with this, with these products, with this color palette. Could be fun. So I might find a story where I can use some sequins and throw those in the mix. So I will put that here. All right, and then last thing before I get started on the actual kind of combining of products here, this is my what do I want to say? My ideas list. This is a pad that came from Allie Edwards. I don't think they sell this any longer, but what I like to do is before I get going on actually project planning or story planning, I like to come up with different ideas of what I think I might be able to tell with the kit. And these are things that are ideas that are sparked by either the actual product. So my daughter was, the class she was in last year was called Dragonfly. There's a dragonfly, perfect. There's definitely a story from her school last year that I can tell there. But then the other thing that I try to do is look for pictures that might be more generic, where the story might be more generic, but the color scheme goes with the products that have come in the kit. So something that I tried, if you keep your photos, here's a fun little tip. If you keep your photos in Google Photos, they have added an AI search feature to Google Photos. So you've always been able to search. Google has a really great search feature in their photo app. But now what you can do with the AI search is you can give it more, almost like more conversational prompt and find different things. So I went in and I asked it to find me pictures where it had kind of a pastel yellow and greens. And it was able to find photos where someone in the picture or some element of the photo, the primary element of the photo, were along the color scheme that I had given it as a prompt. And I tried a few different variations just to see what kind of was in there. But this paper in particular really reminds me of a baby, right? It does me, may not everyone, but kind of that light pastel, range of colors here. And so what I was able to find were photos of my daughter. So she's 5 now, but I was able to find pictures from her first year of life, and I'm still trying to fill in her first year album. So I've got lots of opportunity for stories there. And I was able to find pictures from March, April, and October where she is wearing something that matches essentially the color scheme of the kit. And I love that because then I'm able to, I'll be able to find materials and put together a story, but it will look really nice because the color scheme, you know, kind of goes. I was thoughtful about the color scheme from the beginning. Okay, last thing, I have been on a little bit of a crafting hiatus, and what I've been doing in that time, instead of actually working on some of my own stories, I've been looking for inspiration. And I went back. Krystal Idunate is a crafter whose style I love, and someone whose, you know, kind of approach to storytelling is one that I gravitate towards and admire. My story planning process is fully lifted from her process. But I found an old video of hers where she'd used a magazine and used that to give her ideas for layouts. Okay, so so I thought, oh, that's fun. And I'm sure there are other people who have done something similar, but I hadn't thought of it before. So there was a decorating magazine that had come to the house. So I went through and I found layouts that I thought would work, or that I could kind of make work as a scrapbook layout. So this is a little bit different. I don't typically come into a planning process with anything already sketched. That's not really how I've worked before. But in this instance, I had a few ideas of things that I thought would work or could work with this kit. So one layout idea was to do a big double page photo, and it had really big text, long word text across the top and the bottom. So I thought for this kit, it came with these large die cut alphas. This would actually be really great for achieving this, you know, this layout. And I actually do have a good story idea for this. So this I'm probably going to pair here, right? So I've already got a sketch going, and I already know what product I want to use there. So this, again, just noting this because this is a little bit different from what I've done in the past, and I kind of like it. And maybe if you're someone who does like sketching, or maybe you see someone else's idea and you want to sketch it out to remind yourself and then pull it into one of your planning processes, this is great. So here are a couple. This is another one here that had a full page photo. Actually, this isn't from a magazine. This was just an idea that I saw, but a full page photo, and then 2 3x4 cards, and then 2x2 pockets at the bottom. Back to the magazines. This was another double page photo with you know, some sort of text or pattern paper down the side. This one was to do your title, and then 3 or 4 prompts down the side, kind of in a column, and then 3 photos down here, down the right-hand side, also in a column, but that these all were all the same size, right? So it was very, had a very kind of like grid-like pattern to it. And then lastly, and this one, you know, may not seem all that mind-blowing, but it had a title at the top, and then a large photo that interacts with the edge. So that to me was the thing that was a little bit different. I haven't done something like that. And I thought, you know, again, very simple, but hadn't thought of it. So let me go ahead and do a quick sketch of it. And then your journaling would be at the bottom. And of course could add some other embellishments or things like that. But this is my starting place. And forgive this, I had to tear this off for my daughter. Okay. So with that long preamble, that is the beginning of my kind of where I'm coming into my process. And so with that, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I decide to work on is a story using the products in the kit that have the dragonfly images. My daughter's pre-K class from last year, they were called Dragonfly. And so obviously when this kit came and I saw that that was one of the illustrations, I knew for sure I could use those products to tell some stories from her album for last year. So I initially pulled this kind of peach and blue card and put it with the yellow papers. The yellow paper there has a dragonfly print on it, if you can't see that well enough. And then I decided I kind of like these peach and blue tones. So I grabbed over one of those kind of blue plaid pockets, and I found another card that also I could use for some journaling that was in those blue tones. So I've put those all together, and then I pulled over the puffy sticker sheet, and I'm just cutting out, there were two dragonflies there, and also one of the little critters from the kit illustration that also had that kind of blue plaid blanket wrapped around his shoulders. So I'm going to put all of those things together, and I'll figure out how to assemble them. So I'm just sort of crossing off here on my story sheet that I've got some products for one of the stories I came up with, and I'll move on. The next thing I wanted to use were these alpha stickers, and they're this kind of lime green. They're really pretty, and one of the designs I guess that I'd seen was to do a big double wide photo with a big title. So I don't know at all what story I'm going to tell there. I'm just going to go ahead and find like a big photo that I can print off double-sided or double page, and then use those alpha stickers to create a title on those pages. Okay, now I've moved on. Another story idea I had using this kit, I'm calling Froggy Legs. Now, let me explain. When my daughter was a newborn, and if you've had a newborn in your house, you will know when they are kind of fresh out, they keep their legs kind of tucked up as if, when they were in utero. And so my daughter, when I would put her down on the changing table to change her diaper, she would always kind of pull her legs back in. And resist kind of the urge to be stretched out. And so I would always call her Froggy Legs, and that was kind of one of my little things that I would say to her. So I've just pulled some some products over that I can use to tell that story, and I just love this little frog with the wide eyes. So I'm going to figure out how to assemble that in a little bit. Okay, and here I've pulled over two cards, this one that says yummy on repeat a few times there, and then this other card that says bring a blanket and stay a while. And I thought those cards worked well together, the colors, but also, story-wise, right? Like the bring a blanket and stay a while has the little picnic blanket on it, and so I thought that would be great. There's certainly some story I can tell of us having, picnic in the park or, something of that nature. And so I grabbed some other cards that I thought worked, where I could use this to do a kind of 4-pocket spread. And then as I went through, I started kind of thinking, actually, like one of these cards says guest check. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really work with a picnic story. I don't know, I probably was overthinking it. But I pulled two of the cards out, and I'm just going to use two cards and that little wood veneer piece that says picnic, and I'm going to use that as my materials for picnic story. Next up is another sketch that I had in advance, and I just wanted to use sort of like 3 photos down the page and 3 prompts. Again, I don't know what they're going to be, but I went through the embellishments to just find 3 repeat shapes that I could use to kind of delineate the 3 stories that I want to tell there. So I pulled over 3 labels. So not a big use of products for that particular story, but I think it'll be cute when it comes out. Okay, and here I've grabbed back over the card that said yummy, and then the other card that said guest check, and I grabbed a label from the embellishments and also cut out here one of the chipboards that said life is better with friends, and I figure I can use those products to tell a story about just dinner with some friends. And while I had the chipboard out, I also cut apart, there were a series of little banners or like kind of pendants, and I definitely want to use those together for a story. So I just went ahead and cut those out while I had everything out. So that's this story, and now I'm moving on to something new. So at this point, I spend the next little bit actually like grouping a bunch of different cards and just trying to organize things in a way that I think work together, where products work together. So first you saw there was like a blue plaid card that I flipped over as I was back and forth on, the 2 sides of the cards. And I added that back over to the story that I mentioned earlier with the kind of peach and blue tones. So that went over into that pile of products. And then next I had 3 3x4 cards, and I was trying to see if any of these 4x6 cards would go with it, go with them. I saw this card, the 4x6, that said absorbed in the new scents, the sounds, and the sunlight, and I put that aside because it's kind of sparked an idea for something. But on the lower left corner, you see there's kind of like three cards with green tones. One I think says Spring Day. So I'm just looking for other things that can go with that. You'll see here there was a blue card. It said, "In friendship, we find strength to weather any storm." I like the way that looked with the stripes card, so I put those together. And again, you see me just kind of like working through products. I think there was a chipboard there that I threw over with a pile of cards as well. It said, "Any day with you," I think, something like that. So just kind of a general sentiment. Those seemed like kind of a general pile of things I could use for a more generic story. And then what I did here, really because I was struggling to figure out like how to use some of these cards, some of these products. So I looked through my camera roll and I found one set, not really a set, it's a picture that I can use to tell a story about a spring day for my daughter. And so all of those green cards went together with that story sheet, and I'll sketch that in a little bit. And then I also found another kind of set of cards, set of photos from 2020, so several years back. And I decided that I would grab, this was a sketch that I did in advance, just again to try to help give me some ideas. And so I'm going to do one of the pockets that has the 6 2x2s in the bottom. So I cut out some chipboard, some circular chipboard. They were all pretty close in size. And then I'm going to find basically like some pattern paper to go with that to fill in the those bottom 6 squares. And sorry that this is kind of starting to dip out of frame, but when I go to sketch it, you'll be able to see a little bit better what I'm working on there. And I also decided to pull over, I realized I need something for journaling. And so I pulled over a card that I had in one of the other piles, and I'm going to use that for some journaling with that particular story. Okay, next up is this striped paper. I thought this was like so beautiful, and I grabbed over 2 other, again, out of frame, apologies, 2 other embellishments that were from my stash, and I'm going to use these with the pattern paper for a story. So there's a yellow chipboard heart, and then a canvas piece, there you go, you can see it now, that says "All of You." The chipboard heart, I think, was from Allie Edwards' heart scrapbook kit, I think, and then the canvas piece was from the 2024 XOXO kit, or XO I think was just the story kit. Okay, so I'm putting these together, and I'm just trying to see what other things I might want to use with this. I found a couple of chipboard that I think match the color palette the way that I'm thinking for this particular story. I'm definitely leaning into all of the pastels, and I pulled over the chipboard hearts, and then 2 chipboard phrases, and I'm going to use those. This will probably end up being, and well, obviously I'll sketch it shortly here, but this will probably end up being one where I just use this stripe paper as the foundation and add a couple of photos, and then a small element of journaling. Here, I'm still trying to figure out like how do I want to do this? Should I add some other elements to the kind of pile or to my design? But ultimately, I'm going to go with the first thing that I said. And then you'll see I grabbed that tag because I thought maybe I'd use the tag to slip in there. I just love this paper so much. I want the paper to really be on display. But when I did that, I realized, no, I don't want the tag with this particular story, but it goes really well with that polka dot paper. So you'll see me make something with those here in just a moment. So with my story sheet, I realized, oh yes, I do want to pull some products for Project Life. And so this is a good opportunity. I'm just looking for a lot of like kind of generic or, not very directed elements that I can use in a page of Project Life, some labels that I can put on pictures and things like that. So this pile is going to become Project Life for 1 week in March. Now I'm going to work on that story using that giant tag. And there's a phrase on there that says "sunny with a chance of smiles." And I loved the idea of putting this tag in a pocket in some sort of way where there's also a window that allows you to see that phrase. So here, what I want to do is just find some other things to go with this other product to go with this idea, right, with this story. And I'm going to pull over, there's a chipboard tag. I think there's 2 chipboard tags that I'm going to find here that I'm going to add to this product pile. And then I'm also going to cut out a couple of the chipboard circles to use as layering elements on top of those tags. So I'm just going to, kind of plop those here, and then I'll come back and sketch this in a bit. Next, I'm moving on. I have these 3 cards here that I really like the color palette, and I like how they go together. This is the one where it says in friendship, we can weather any storm, I think is what it is. And I'm going to go back and forth a little bit. Like, I still have these 2 chipboard circles that I'm trying to see if they work some kind of way. I thought about pulling over the diagonal striped paper. And ultimately, I'm just going to put these 3 cards together and call that done. Figure out how I'm going to use that. But I felt like I was really trying to force those circles to work, and, maybe they won't. And spoiler alert, they don't. I do not find a home for those circles in my planning process today. So I'll put these 3 cards to the side and keep going. I took a little bit of time there to just go through my list of story ideas, see what I had left or what other stories I wanted to tell that I didn't yet find products for. And I also cleared off my desk a little bit and just, again, trying to see for myself what products are still left. I remembered that I had this sketch for a double-sided double-page photo. I grabbed the enamel dots and a couple of chipboards and very basic. I think one says documented and the other one says breezy day or something like that. And I'm going to use that to tell a story about a photo shoot that we did for my oldest stepdaughter when she graduated from high school. She wore a really beautiful blue dress, and it's going to just kind of go with those tones well. So very few products for that story, but I pulled that over. And then here I had another sketch that I had done coming into this planning process, and I wanted to use that striped paper. Basically what I'm trying to figure out here is, like, I needed to pull over some cards to get a visual of what it would look like if I had a photo layered on top of that striped paper. So I liked that. I'm just sort of sketching that out. I have no idea what story I'm going to tell. And then this is pretty much the remaining product. So the pile on the upper left there, these are things I'm probably not going to use or I don't have an idea for, and I'm okay with that. There's a lot of stuff in the Cocoa Daisy kits. It does not all get used, and I'm good with that. So that's sort of my, I would say, discard pile, if you will, things I don't think I'm going to try to find a home for in this planning process. Here I see this card that talks about sort of like life's pages, or as life's pages turn, or something like that. And I liked the idea of pairing that with the paper that is a page, or is supposed to be a page out of the Wind in the Willows book. So I put those together, and I've added a few of the die cuts to add to that. And then I also have these banner shapes with the wood veneer word that says spring. And I decide that I like the way those go with that green polka dot paper. So I'm going to put those all together onto that. I'm going to put that pile of products together, and that's going to be a story there. And then again, the other one that I put here, and then that's it. Everything else I'm going to kind of put in my discard pile, or it's not discard, but again, I'm not going to continue looking for places for this product. So that will kind of go off to the side, and then I'm going to begin sketching my ideas from today. Okay, first up is actually one of the last ideas that I came up with during this planning session. I loved this card that said, "Let life's pages turn," something like that. And I wanted to pair that, or I liked that paired with this paper that is made to look like a page in a book. So that will be kind of the background. And then I'm going to put the card on here, and I'm going to make the card into a flip out. So I've got 2 of the little die cuts that I'm going to use to embellish the front of the card, and please do not judge my lack of artist skills here, but that's what those are supposed to be, little die cuts in the corner. And then I'm going to use the card as a flip out. On the back side of that card is where I'll put my journaling, and underneath it I'll add a couple of photos. And I have a couple of story ideas for this one, so I'm not 100% sure which direction it will go, but I'll figure that out when I go to assemble it. This one here is the one using the banner shapes. So I'm going to get a piece of string and put it across the top of a photo and hang all of these banners from that string. It's a similar idea to one that I've done before, one that I've seen many people do before. And I'm going to add the spring wood veneer piece and then put some journaling at the bottom. And I'm going to pull over this washi tape. I put this on the paper to remind myself. I'm going to use the washi as a division on the page between the photo and my journaling. So I'll just use white cardstock as my foundation for that story. This one here is one that I already had sketched out. As I mentioned, it was sketched before I came into this session, and I've just grabbed some of these kind of bright orange alpha stickers that I'm going to use to make my title there. Again, I don't have a story in mind, so I'll let my photos guide what those products ultimately get used for. This one here is the one with the three 3x4 cards, and I decided that I really liked the way the blue quote card paired with those stripes. And so what I'm going to do is actually cut that down so that instead of being 3x4, it'll end up being, I don't know, maybe 2x3 or 3x3, something like that. And I'll cut that down and mount it on top of the striped card. And then I'll add 2 photos to this, and I will print my journaling, on vellum, and I'll use vellum. I'll overlay the vellum onto this pattern card here. And what I did was I went over to the remaining products and I found 2 labels that I haven't yet used yet. One is black and one really is a little bit and pops off of that card a little bit better. The other really matches the tone of the card, and so I'll figure out once I get the photos which direction I want to go with that. Here, again, this is one that I had pre-sketched. I'm thinking that I will use this to tell a story from Easter because I have some photos of my daughter in a dress. It's a plaid dress, and it's the exact same colors as these 3 labels. So I think that's what I'm going to use there. And I also just grabbed over these kind of lime alpha stickers. At first, I thought I would use those for the title, but then I decided they don't really go well. So I'm going to just forego that idea. Okay, next sketch is the one using these 3 cards with the story theme of a spring day. And I've got the card on the lower left with the little frog on it. I'm actually going to cover him up. He's cute, but he doesn't really fit in this particular story. So I'm going to use that as background to mount a photo. I'll have the quote card. I'll add a second photo to this, and then I'll use the card that says spring day for my journaling. And I remembered I had these sequins. These are Key Largo is the name of the collection of sequins here, and those work really nicely. It's kind of greens and yellows, and I thought that would accentuate the story. So I'll be creating a shaker pocket of some kind in that layout as well. The next one here is the story or the layout idea that I mentioned, where I'll be using 6 2x2 pockets at the bottom of one of the pages. And so what I decided to do was just grab my trimmer right away, and I had a 3x4 card that I was going to cut into the background pieces, and I don't know what I was thinking, the math does not work. So I wanted a spot for 3 filler spots, and I was going to use this little yellow dragonfly paper with a circular chipboard on top. And then I realized, Jill, that doesn't work, but I still have little fragments of the card. So I think I'm going to just put those 2 extra, whatever it would be, I guess like 1x2 pieces of that card, and I'll just go ahead and put them together in the pocket anyway. It'll probably annoy me a little bit, but beggars can't be choosers. Okay, moving on. Next layout idea here. This is the one with the tag and the polka dot paper, and the one that I want to use or create a little window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a white cardstock as my foundation page, and then I'm going to cut this green polka dot paper down, and I will stitch it onto the white cardstock. And then I'm going to put the tag in there, and I'm going to probably add a couple of other tags. I'll make, either photos into a tag shape, or I'll create my own kind of filler tags. So I'm sure there's plenty of stuff in my stash that I can use with this. And here I'm just kind of looking to say like, yep, I want to add these chipboard tags, and I'll have those hanging off of the tags yet to be made, yet to be figured out in this layout. But that green polka dot paper is where I'm going to cut out a window so that you can read the little phrase there that says sunny with a chance of smiles. And here I'm going to sketch that out so I can remind myself that that's what I actually want to do here. And I went over into my stash and pulled out a small little piece of acetate, so that way I can include that with these products and it's ready to go when I'm ready to assemble this one. Next, I'm going to work on this story here using this striped paper, and my first instinct here was to put the yellow chipboard heart at the bottom, and then I played around with a couple of ideas and decided no, I like it at the bottom better. It felt a little too heavy at the top, so I like the way it kind of grounds the page at the bottom. And I put Baby Winter as the story for this one. Basically, I'm just going to look through old photos of my daughter from her newborn year, and I'll use this in her year one album. These colors really felt like they worked really well for a newborn baby. So I don't really have a story in mind here, but that's how I'm going to use these products. I'm going to embellish this with the chipboard phrases and the chipboard hearts. I'll probably just add a couple of photos depending on what I find, but ultimately this one will just be an inside the pocket layout, fairly simple and straightforward, but again, I really love the paper, so I wanted that to be the star of this particular show. All right, moving along. This is a story that I'm going to use to tell about, I think I said dinner, like just a general dinner out, and I was like, maybe I have something from an old birthday, a story I haven't told yet, but again, yummy as the filler card, the guest check as a place to hold my journaling, and then I'll add 2 photos and some very basic embellishments. This one's going to be really easy, really simple, I should say. And I'm just checking my stash off to the side to see if there are any other little bits or pieces that might work here. I pulled over this peachy color washi because I thought maybe that would work some kind of way. Maybe I can use that as a kind of a background to the chipboard maybe. So I'll figure that out as I go to assemble it, but that's that set of products. This story here I already kind of talked through, but again, it's just going to be a big double-side photo, and then I think that I want to use these kind of lime green alphas as part of my title. And what I realized is I want to use these alpha for titles on a few different layouts. So I thought before I get really excited about or committed to using them in this story, let me first quickly sketch out the words that I want to make with this alpha set and make sure I have enough letters. So I think scrapbookers, we know that E's are hard to come by. So I just wanted to make sure that I did not set myself up for title disappointment when I go to make these and then I don't have enough letters. So that's what I was doing there. Okay, this one here, I want to make the title or use these die cut alphas for the title that says Little Miss, I Can Do It By Myself. And if you're of my age or generation, you remember those Little Miss books. And so that's the title that I want to use there about my daughter. Again, it'll be a large photo and something that she's learning or figuring out how to do herself. Now I'm going to go ahead and start working on this kind of picnic themed story. And I'm going to start one idea here on the right hand side and then change my mind about the orientation. So you'll see me cross this out and I'll come over to the left hand side to sketch it out a second time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that card that says bring a blanket and stay a while. I'm going to cut that out and I'm going to just use the words. I'm going to cut the picnic blanket and picnic basket off of that card. I'm going to use the words as a title and jumping off point for a longer, like kind of 3x8 length journaling. I thought about using this washi tape maybe as a way to delineate between the title and my journaling, and I'll put the picnic wood veneer piece on the bottom as like an anchor of to that journaling. And then on the sort of second column there, I will add 2 3x4 photos. And what I'm using for this is one of those pocket pages that has 2 3x8 slots, but I will use my fuse tool to divide one of those slots so that I've got space for 2 3x4 photos. Now I'm going to start working on the Froggy Legs story. And what I've done is I went into my stash to find some papers that I thought complemented the tones and the colors in this kit. I want to use those lime green alphas for my title that says Froggy Legs. And I want those to be on white cardstock so that the letters, pop up off the page. But I also wanted to create more visual interest. I don't want sort of just the alpha stickers on top of a white cardstock where, I'm just also then adding other, photos or words to the white cardstock. So something to just give it more interest. So I'm going to layer that kind of peachy coral solid color cardstock with the floral print, and then the white strip of paper with the froggy legs will be on top of that. So here you can see me kind of trying to visualize what it will be. I don't know if I explained it very well, but that's what I was kind of working out there. And then I'm going to pull over this tag, which I really want to use. And I love the image of this frog, but I definitely didn't need, a bunch of them. So I really want to use the wood veneer piece. I'm going to use that and cover up the frog that is printed on that tag. And then when I cut the card for the story right before this, the picnic story, the backside had this little, kind of grid pattern, and I liked that as well. And it went with the colors for this particular story. So I think I'm going to mount this tag, the Froggy Legs tag, rather than having it be an interactive element. I'm just going to mount it on the page, and I'll use that for, my journaling. And then I can use this other card with the frog on it. I'm just going to put, add some layering elements, I guess. So the grid, that little tag is also from my stash. I think it just says details. And then hopefully I can get, just some other little things there. And then I'll pair that with a full page photo that I have of my daughter in this little froggy legs position. And I also added a few other things here. There's this label. I'm looking to see if I can use these asterisks for, bullet points for the journaling on the tag. So a few things here I just am going to throw in with this pile of products to give myself some options when I go to actually assemble the story. Okay, coming into the home stretch here, I'm starting to work on the story. These are the first set of products that I pulled in today's story planning process. So I've got this envelope here on the lower left-hand side of the page, and I want to make an interactive element with these 2 3x4 cards. So I'm thinking that I will set it up where the dragonfly is facing out, and then the words are, I'm using this under review card or up for review card or something like that. I'll use that card for my journaling. And then I have a tab. I think that was from one of the planner kits, I think. Might be the stationery kit, but that's where that tab came from. So I'm going to use that and adhere those to the cards. And then at the top, I've got this 3x4 plaid card that I pulled over. I'm going to cut that in half and use that basically to put a 2-inch strip across the top of the page. I will adhere those puffy dragonfly stickers, and I'll use that plaid paper as a background for a title for this one. And obviously I want photos on here, and so I think I can get 3 photos on this page if I size them to, I think I say 2x3 on here. So that's my idea. And again, this will really be dependent on what photos I find, but this is the idea. And I'm here just kind of indicating that I want to put these cards down into the envelope and use that tab as an interactive element. So that is this one. Okay, everyone, that finishes my story planning process for today. So from all of that product, I was able to sketch out and design out 15 projects. That's kind of obscene. So we'll see if I actually put all of those together, but 15 story ideas and layouts that I was able to pull product for today. I also pulled aside some products for a week of Project Life. And again, I may not use all of these. I'm working in a 9 by 12, but I'm trying to only do one side per week. I'm really trying to stick to one album for the year. So may not end up needing all of what I've pulled here, but this is what I assembled. And then I also have a few products that I'm going to just sort of tuck into other projects. So I've got these two cards that I'm going to use as part of a journal I'm keeping for a health journey that I'm on. So that's those. I'm going to use this in my one little word album this month. March is the month of identifying a practice, and so I'm going to use this to keep track of what I'm practicing. And then finally, I'm going to use this just March prompt card to do some reflective journaling as I'm coming up on my 50th birthday here in the month of March. So I thought that would be a nice kind of jumping off point. This transparency, I'm going to just hole punch and throw into one of my daughter's albums. This I thought was a good use of the kind of fun and whimsical character designs. So it'll kind of go in the flow of her stories. And then I ended up with a few, odds and ends left over, as I typically do. Just a few chipboard pieces, not a ton left actually, but I'll put these to the side. I'll keep them off the side of my desk here as I work to assemble these stories, and anything that makes sense to grab over, I will go ahead and do that. And thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.